Okay.
And we are live. Welcome, thrice welcome to JWC Livestream. JWC Livestream. Today it is Stories at a Glance with Ricky and Tom, or Tom or Ricky, or however it's got to be. I am Ricky.
I'm Tom. How you doing?
Hey, there's Tom. Today is going to be a read show. We got some wonderful stories piled up, waiting to be read, and this one in particular has a nice ghoulish twist to it. But first and foremost, JWC is here to bring you inspiration. We're here to try to tell you how to be a different writer. That's what we do. You have to make yourself a better writer by actually doing the writing and the reading involved. But a different writer, that's a big deal. That's the thing. If you can learn a little trick or two here or there, it's worth your time. So we're gonna check out Tom's stories, at least one of them, and see what's up, what he's got to offer. And he's got a formidable voice, folks. So put your seatbelts on. It's gonna be a real good one. Tom, how you doing personally and creatively? How's everything going?
Very good. I just got to the part my terror at Lake Champlain. Tomorrow I write the climax and the hopefully exciting ending to a monster story when the champ creature, sort of like a Loch Ness creature, is killing people at random along the shore, and John Penkram is trying to figure out why. So
well, if John Penkram's on the case, he's going to get to the bottom of that he's like a dredger, that guy. So okay, so that's great. Any other projects?
Yes, I have my first 8 parts of my first Vela novel are up. It's called Of Thieves, Dragons, and O'Hara. And so far I got some very good feedback. Very, very good feedback. And so that looks like it could run 300 or 400 episodes. So I would see if I could keep on going until Amazon says, "What are you doing?" So
until they're like, "What's going on here?" I don't know. I love to hear more about this Vela process. Like maybe we got to do a whole show on it, Tom.
Sure.
Because I mean, this coming 2 weeks from now, you're supposed to do the book cover thing, but I'm almost thinking you should like plunge into Vela and tell us like who, what, where, why, like how, like what, and how, and especially the response,
Sure.
I think it would be great to have that on the show.
In a couple of weeks, I should have some interesting idea on numbers. What I'm doing is somebody recommended this release schedule Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday. And the way I'm going, I'm not going to run out of episodes for a year or more before I have to think about writing more. So it should be very interesting. I'll save those tidbits maybe for what I have, bubbling up, or what I'd like to talk about for what do you call it? 2 weeks from now. We'll see.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I would gladly, and I think it'd do you good too to articulate it out loud and explain like why you're about it and stuff. How about The Bride? Have you set that down? I hate to be so nosy, but I'm interested in that project.
The Bride's crawling along. She's hopefully I'm not gonna put her on the back burner for too long, but these Penkram stories I want to get out and get enough together to put together a volume on to sell on Kindle. This could
Absolutely.
do it. This is about 6 or 7 stories, and since I read completely. Oh, go ahead.
Overall length of the book?
Oh boy, 100 pages, 130 pages. We'll have to see.
So
I might do a few more.
So 30, 40, 50,000 words, maybe something like that.
Well, yeah, Terror at Lake not a whole lot I could do about that. It's basically this is a the Pencrims, John and his mom, go to a annual wine festival in Vermont on the edge of Lake Champlain, and he goes very reluctantly. But something happens that first night. Somebody gets killed, and he's like, "Oh, I'm glad I'm here," and takes off from there. He's got something to do besides, hand people cups of wine during the day. So it's instead of just cut and dry story, I'm trying to add some characterization and some behind the scenes plot. Like I said in last week, that he meets his second wife here. So there's some hopefully some sparks going on where she's ready to meet somebody, and he just says, "Okay, no problem," and there's like immediate attraction. That tends to happen in my books where two people see each other and there's like, boom,
No, I'm hip. I remember what you did with that crate story in Corporate Gothic, the way you played your fiddle on that. That was good. That was an example of that. I know your voice. I know your voice can do that very well. Well, that's great, man. That sounds good. Groovy. You got those projects. I'm writing poems here and there. I got to get back to the essays. I'm juggling. I got a lot of irons in the fire, to be honest with you. Or as Wolfman says, a lot of fires in the iron. I don't know. I got the essays, the poetry. I'm working on this vampire fiction, man. It's been consuming me. There's these giant flesh-eating things that live in the East. There's a horrible religious theocracy that's in the West. And this valley is just, they live in caves, fearing for their lives. It's like Transylvania in overdrive. You know what I'm saying? So these night walkers, these warriors, they go to this holy bog. And there's this like giant crab there, and it like communicates to them in telepathy. And they lay down in this bog, and then all these creatures envelop them. And the crab uses his telepathy to like dial in the armor. So he's wearing like all these octopi that are like programmed into place. And then there's these like, it's all like fresh water from an alien world, So there's these alien horseshoe crabs. And it unifies to become this thing called the Vrumzu. And it drinks their blood. Like it had all those little octopi have teeth in them, and it takes little sips. But when they get in combat and they get all like blood soaked, the suits like swell to receive the blood, and they get like uber stronger. And it's like Babbletron. But it's like if Big Daddy was like Vlad the Impaler, but it's also like, it's like from another world. It's like sci-fi too, so it's all tripped out.
Yikes!
Yeah, man. You know how
and you got that idea from my story about the vampire that runs a art gallery in Manhattan.
And Tom, on a stack of waffles, that's exactly how that happened. Yeah, I was inspired, like I told you with Snakeborn, which is what I was supposed to be working on. That part of Emily Bragg.
Right.
And I'm not gonna, no spoilers, folks, but that part of Emily, it kicked me in the chest that one day, and I was like, oh, imagine if, and then all of a sudden, flew in my head. But yeah, man, that's the key, folks. We're gonna put the brakes on for 2 seconds here. Inspiration is the highest coin in the realm, and wherever you can get it, that's where you got to be. So you hang out with creatives like Tom over there, and his stuff's so groovy and juicy or whatever, like the way his voice, the world building, dialogue, everything. He's got, so the more you hang out with stuff like that, the more you're going to be inspired. I have other friends that do likewise, and I think it's mutual, reciprocal, however you want to call it. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of crazy stuff that happens in that story. I'm not going to get into it, but the vampires have got me. And I'm also trying my hand at writing satire. In this parallel universe, like Atlantis never sunk, so it's part of the United States. So there's this Atlantean woman who's a senator, because the 51st state is Atlantis or whatever. And I'm telling this gruesome, I'm trying to be funny, but writing humor is like,
Oh,
oof, like it
it's
ain't
tough.
easy. It ain't easy. Like romance, violence, adventure, horror, sci-fi, I can dig all that. But writing funny is a challenge. Like my aunt was like, she pulled a revolver and she was like, you got to write funny. And I'm like, okay, that's a good point. I haven't done that yet. I haven't written funny yet. So to try to keep the whole, flow of experimentation and creativity going, now I'm trying, but it's not easy.
Oh, no.
I don't even think it's like, it's got a great pace and it's kind of humorous, but I wouldn't even say that it's funny yet, let alone comedic. Like I have some work to do. But otherwise everything's going good, man. Staying creative, and I'm already about a quarter of the way through the vampire story. I wrote like 10,000 words in like a week or something. Like it just flew out of me. Um, so that's great. Staying creative, folks, and looking for inspiration everywhere. That's the point of you have the secondary world. You have the muse, you have your inspiration that informs all that stuff. And it keeps you from fretting about the primary world. There's a lot of uncertainty that's going on in the world today, money wise, all these different things. But for a creative, you just shut yourself in your room, go to your desk, write your words, and you could fight and live through another day. It's wonderful.
True.
Yeah, you know it, Tom. What have you got for us today? Because our format is stories at a glance, which means we want to do a little bit of a sniper job. We want to read something that's quick, and we want to get a bang bang analysis of it. So I'm to understand you're going to read this story that you wrote called The Kitten and the Wolf.
Yes.
All right.
All
Well,
right.
let's hear it, man.
All right. Sounds good. All right. The Majestic Arms Hotel, Manhattan, Wednesday, July 2nd, 10:40 a.m. Eve knew he was circling around her, his movements obvious. She blissfully ignored him. She sat at the small table in the dark corner of the restaurant. May I help you? Asked the waiter. Yes, thank you, she said with a smile. May I have a dish of strawberry ice cream? Of course, Miss Eve. You can pay for this? His tone was arrogant. Smiling, she looked him in the eye. Of course. The waiter left. A few moments later, Mark stood at her table. Is this seat taken? He asked. He was holding a dish of ice cream, chocolate. Looking up, Eve put on her best smile. No, I'm alone, she said. Mark smiled and slithered into the chair like a cobra swaying to a flute. He almost felt like jumping out of his skin from the excitement, but he took several breaths instead. My name is Mark. Eve, are you here with your parents? No, they went to a food festival somewhere. I'm supposed to be home sleeping or watching television. This is an interesting way to watch television. I got bored, she said, licking her spoon. This place looked interesting. The ice cream here is really good. It is, isn't it? Said Mark. I'll pay for your ice cream if that's okay. Okay, she smiled, filled with glee. Can I have some more? All you want. Thanks. She smiled. Mark smiled and relaxed even more. She gazed at his Los Angeles Dodgers cap perched on his head. So how is Los Angeles at this time of year? Are you a Dodgers fan? No, I prefer the Pirates. I see. Are you and your folks here on vacation? No, not really. Mother and father are working. Both of them? Yes, they work together. What do they do? They're into food, she said. Like restaurant critics? No, they really like to eat food. They're gourmets. Something like that. They like to call themselves gastronomes. They love finding new foods for people like us. Us? Gourmets. Ah, filet mignon instead of burgers. I do like a good steak, said Eve. Well done, medium, rare. Ah, a real carnivore. Yes, nice and juicy. Well, all right. I'm a medium well-steak man myself. I like to make sure it's dead before I eat it. That's funny, said Eve. I still like it when it goes moo when I poke it with a fork. Now that's funny. Do you go out to eat in fancy restaurants with your parents? Sometimes. We like to find good food wherever we go. We're not picky where it is. Oh, okay. You just got into good food. Not me so much. I pretty much eat whatever they find. Mom and dad work for a group that looks for exciting foods for people. For restaurants, things like that? Something like that. What kind of foods have they found lately? Well, come on. With friends, right? We're friends, right? What do you do? She said, changing the subject. I am a systems manager at a power plant in Chicago. Does that have anything to do with engineering? Quite a bit. I'm an electrical engineer myself, and that makes it easier to work with other electrical engineers. I see. The waiter came by, dropping off a plate of red velvet sandwich cookies. Mark picked one up and bit into it. I never eat the cookie parts. You just like the cream every time. Mark nearly fell off his chair. Could she really be this perfect? Where are you and your folks from? Gideon Corners, Pennsylvania. Never heard of it. Where is it in Pennsylvania? It's just down the road from Crystal Cave. We go there all the time. We practically live there. That's nice, real nice. You got to be careful. Places like that can be scary and dangerous. We are always careful. I'm not afraid of anything. Nothing, nothing, she said with a smile. There must be something you're afraid of. Try me. The dark. Nope. Scary movies. No. Small spaces? Nah, you're not even close. How about these? Spiders, dogs, snakes, strangers? No. One more. Heights. I love high places, mountains, airplanes, skyscrapers. Mark's pulse beat faster. Now to reel in the fish, he thought. He took a deep breath to relax. Central Park is beautiful, isn't it? Yes, it is. You know how it is pretty as it is from the ground. It's even more awesome from high up. Really? Eve turned her eyes to the ceiling. That might be cool to see. Oh, it is. This hotel is the best view of Central Park in the whole city. Is that really true? I wouldn't lie to you. He looked right at her. It would be a shame to miss it. It would. She looked down at her dish. I finished my ice cream. I was hoping to have some more. Tell you what, Mark said. We could take a look from my balcony and then come running back here for more. Promise? Mark held up his hand, open palm facing her. Scout's honor. And the ice cream? Oh yeah, you'll get all you want. Eve smiled again and wiped her face with a napkin. I'm ready when you are. Good, said Mark. Here's what I want you to do. The Majestic Arms Hotel, Manhattan, room 2214. Wednesday, July 2nd, 11:20 a.m. This is awesome, said Eve. Look, there's the merry-go-round, she said, pointing down the street. And the castle. Where's the zoo? Mark glued his eyes to the treetops. He clenched the handrail so hard he thought he would dent it. This was the easiest score he'd ever had. She was so willing. New York was a dream location for him. The do not disturb sign was in place outside. He was ready. Do you like the view? He asked. I love it. Eve smiled as wide as she could. A cool breeze made her shiver. But it's colder up here than on the ground. Come on in, said Mark, his breathing shallow. I've got something for you. Majestic Hotel, Arms Hotel, Manhattan, room 2214. Wednesday, July 2nd, 11:45 a.m. Mark lay back on the bed in ecstasy. Eve had followed his directions without question. No coaching needed. His mind began to wander as his abdomen began to grow numb. That's a good girl, he muttered. Now his legs were asleep. He grew sleepy. He smiled and closed his eyes. The Majestic Arms Hotel, Manhattan, Saturday, July 5th, 1:30 p.m. The elevator door opened, letting in the sunshine. Eve smiled as she stepped out. She struggled with the small Los Angeles Dodgers canvas sport bag hanging from her shoulder. A large hand slipped it from her shoulder and draped it over his own shoulder. I'll take that, said her father as he caught up with her in the elevator. It's heavy. Thanks, she said. Her face and hands were immaculately clean. You got everything? Yes. Hairbrush, a bar of soap, and 2 towels? Father, who taught me? I did, said Mother. Thank you, Eve smiled. It's not a very fashionable bag, said her mother, taking Eve's hand. True, but it holds everything. Eve smiled at her mother. Eve and her family walked out into the bright sunshine. She was in no hurry. The Majestic Arms Hotel, Manhattan, room 2214, Sunday, July 6, 12:40 p.m. Maria used her passkey to enter Mr. Spillet's room. She didn't notice anything out of the ordinary in the short corridor leading into the room. As she stepped into the room, she looked over at the bed. The bed was made. On top of the bed was the picked clean skeleton of Mark Spilett. His clothes were clean and folded on the chair beside the bed. The end.
Wow. There you go. That's a treat.
That was a little rough to write because I said, how far should I go? I said, I don't want to creep anybody out or get anybody really, so I hinted a lot. So
no, obviously there's no other choice when you approach this matter, and it's particularly difficult these days. But there was a nice karmic sense of justice. Now, a skeleton that's picked clean, that's not just a killer, not in a hotel. You'd have to have a whole setup to get something like that going if that was your mode. If you had to do that Dahmer style every time you did something, you'd have to have a whole operation to do that. So what we're dealing with here is not human, I think.
No.
Because you're not going to be able to bring all the equipment that's needed to get all that off of the bones.
How do we know it was equipment? She could have just eaten it herself.
Yes, she could have. But in the time allotted, no human could consume, especially, how old was she meant to be?
9 or 10, maybe?
Yeah, so, that's not, a 10-year-old person couldn't eat like 130.
Yeah, I pictured that hers as she's some kind of creature who has a very, very high metabolism, and maybe her parents came by and helped her with the feast, and
that would explain a lot. But if she did eat all that herself, then I would say that she was an entity. I wouldn't say that she was a person or even an organism. I feel like less than 48 hours the bones were stripped clean. That's a heavy order.
Yeah, and not a drop of blood was spilled.
Yeah, which is even more so. Like, I've there's a concept where like you can exsanguinate and process a person, and I know, folks, I know this is all ghoulish and stuff, but today happens to be a little dose of horror, it's one of Tom's specialties anyway, in case you hadn't noticed. I know I did, because the tension that's present in that story is very, very crucial. When you were writing it, aside from the discomforting topic, because there's no way that doesn't skeeve anybody out, but what you did with it is the key. It's predator turns prey, like you flip it on its head. So when you were crafting that tension, like what were you thinking of,
Sort of like, I wanted to see a cat and mouse game where he thinks he's the predator, and he plays right into her hands. And I have a thing about people getting their comeuppance. Bad people I punish in my stories. They get punished bad, and so
yeah, it's good that there's a karmic cycle, and furthermore, like, there's like a positive spin. Like this was a nice family of ghouls. Like they seemed well adjusted. It was almost like uplifting, like a harder, more twisted Addams family kind of.
Right. Like a cannibalistic Addams family.
Yeah, where it's like Wednesday's not morbid and depressed. She's literally like carnivorous, and there's no end, so like what were you thinking for the inspiration for that, like And I mean, like, going back to the initial news flash, you know what I'm saying?
I believe I caught a little thing in the news about a pedophile that beat a little girl to death. I said, boy, oh boy, he really needs to get punished. And I said, what if somebody could turn the tables on him, like a little girl, you know? And first I had she was just going to stab him, and the woman was going to find him in bed with a steak knife driven to his chest, his heart, and the same ending. You know, did you take care of him? Yeah, father. You know, who taught me? I wiped all the fingerprints off. I didn't touch anything. You know, etc. But I said no. Let me take this as far as it maybe could go. And
yeah, the skeleton is just fantastic. That the maid comes in with the pass key, and there's just this bones sitting there, like
with his arms crossed across his chest, you know, or
skull and bones. Yes, we all know what that means. Well, that was I mean, definitely creepy in multiple senses, but like also like very good, like paced well, dialogue was excellent. I could almost hear the clatter of silverware and people paying for their buffet or whatever, wherever she's sitting in the background, you know. So you got all that stuff there, and the pacing, his demented daydreams and perverse leanings, and he doesn't even understand. That's one of my favorite parts of a story like this is he's a monster and he doesn't understand that he's talking to a double monster. Like that really just and I love that quality of like, because he's a piece of garbage clearly, but what I'm talking about is he's a monster, he's on the hunt, he's got his appetites, and all that tension is there. That's what we're pointing out, folks. Like the reason you write a story like that is it's a demonstration of your ability to conjure tension. And tension it's everything. It's like gasoline to a war. Like you need tension for something like this. Tom's got it wrapped around his little finger, like he knows how to do it. So like listen to that again if you want to pick up those points, man. Anything else, Tom? Anything else on that one? Or
no, I just thought, from anybody looking at them would see this is perfectly ordinary family, mom and a dad, a little girl having fun. They're out on town, and they would, in a million years, they would never suspect anything like that. I try to drop hints in the story that, that they're gastronomes, which I looked up, and it's like, what do you call it? Extreme eaters or something like that. It was, and
yeah.
You say, we eat food wherever we find it, and we're not really picky where we find food, and so
yeah, right on. So one more question before we go on. Maybe you could read us another one, because it seems like we got plenty of time yet. So if you were to write a sequel to this one, what are they? Like you would have to increase the conceptual envelope and take it to another level. That doesn't mean you got to play your whole hand or whatever and tell us everything. But if you were to write another story, what do you think like she is? Is she a phantasm? Is she a zombie? Is she just really like is she some kind of carnivorous blood drinking thing? Is she like just because physically I don't know how you could get like a little girl couldn't eat all that. So
I think she's like extremely a mega metabolistic, like a ghoul, sort of like the human version of, say, a shrew, where she's got to eat her weight in food or meat every 24 hours. And here's this guy that easily could, 2.5 times her size or something, so, she's that could be it. She's like a human shrew.
No, I get it. It's all.
And while she was baiting this guy. The parents
Yeah.
were out having their own gourmet experience. So
I that's the thing. If it wasn't them that helped, it's certainly them going out to help themselves. Um, yeah, it's all in metabolism, folks. Trust me, it's a nightmare that it rules over my life. But it's true. Imagine if you had to like eat a hamburger or whatever, and you're like, "Oh, I'm good." Imagine if the hamburger had to be the size of a pillow or something in order for you to feel even a dent.
right.
So you're just like worse than me at a donut shop. You know what I'm saying? But imagine it was all meat. Where are you going to get that meat from? You better live on a cattle ranch or whatever, right?
Yeah. And maybe they eat every once or twice a week tops, And
Yeah. Dig it.
so
Yeah.
so I figured she would probably drink every drop of blood first, which is a high calorie, really good for the kind of people. And then she would maybe start at the breastbone and just go in from there and go, skin, meat, everything, every gristle, uh, picked clean.
No. I got that from the story, and that's what's worse. Bad enough to find a cadaver, bad enough to find a mangled, torn up cadaver. Very, very strange, like not to be forgotten. Like on her deathbed, she'll go, "Wow, did I really see that?" Finding a skeleton that's not a prop. Like I could just see the cops showing up, putting that tape up. Detectives are going in and out, and they actually do a test, and then no, that's not from Halloween Spirit,
Right.
officer.
They
That's
do.
actually a body, you know?
They check his teeth. They go, yeah, this is the guy that checked in 3 days ago.
It's true. The dental records are right there.
So,
Yeah, so great story, Tom. Obviously a kick in the chest, as always, when it comes to your horror. How about you got another one in you? You want to hit
yeah.
that dinosaur one?
Yeah, I got a cutie one that I wrote for Medium. The dinosaur in the garden. Let's see.
Cool.
The dinosaur stood in the middle of Arthur's garden. It had trampled Arthur's roses and eaten his gardenias. This would not do. Of all days, not today. The morning had started well enough. The wedding presents sat piled up in the living room, unopened. Rita's plane had made good time, and she would land later in the afternoon. Arthur had a few hours to get the estate house clean for her. He had time for a leisurely breakfast of eggs, toast, and a bit of oatmeal. Vanilla hazelnut coffee soon began to perk. Arthur Mosby looked outside into his garden as the coffee perked, and there it stood. Wide, dumb eyes gazed out from a head the size of a microwave oven. The creature had apparently strolled out of the trees into his landscaped yards. The double row of diamond-shaped plates running down its back shone in the early sunlight. It stopped for a few moments to empty its bowels onto the lawn. The steaming pile sat like a signpost saying, "This is for you." "Oh, no, no, you don't," said Arthur out loud as the beast made its way toward his garden and his prized roses, what was left of them. He took out his phone and dialed Dr. Will Pickett. Pickett lived down the block. He knew all about these dinosaurs and would be someone who would care about a stray one. "Hello," said Dr. Pickett. "Good morning, doctor," said Arthur. "This is Arthur Mosby at 31 Holland. We met at Dorothy's party 2 weeks ago." "Oh, sure," said Pickett. What can I do to help you with? What can I help you with?" "There's a dinosaur in my garden, eating my roses." Pickett laughed. "They're getting restless again. Your house backs up onto the Great Russell Swamp, right?" "Yes." "Which dinosaur do you have in your yard?" I don't know the names of these things. They weren't of interest to me when I was a kid. And then when they showed up all these years ago, I never bothered with their names. Can you describe it to me?" "Easily. I'm looking at it right now. Let's see. Thick in the middle, small head, row of plates on its back, tail filled with wicked-looking spines. Ah, yes, a stegosaurus. Pretty harmless. Just don't get too close to the tail." "Don't worry. That end has pain written all over it. So, what can I help you with?" "My wife is due here this afternoon. I want everything to go well." "You're the newlyweds, right?" "Yes." "Could you help me get rid of it somehow?" "Sure, but we won't be hurting it. If that's what you have in mind, count me out. No, I just wanted away from my yard. It already left a dump in my lawn. Great fertilizer. I could take that off your hands. Feel free. I'll be right over. Dr. Pickett stood watching the great animal eat some of Arthur's hedges. He does seem to be hungry. We can use that to our advantage. The two men clipped some branches from the hedges and pulled up two of the smashed rose plants. The stegosaurus turned its head as the roses were brushed over its snout. It began to walk with Arthur and Will toward the trees, growling like some giant cat. It probably came from the swamp, said Will. It's through here a ways. Just be careful. There's a hillside that can be steep. How far? Not too far. You'll smell it soon. The dinosaur began to get distracted about halfway to the swamp. Pickett thought for a moment. She does like your roses. Perhaps we can use the one that she's already trampled. Arthur let out a great sigh. I suppose they're a lost cause. We may as well. I'll be back. Arthur ran back to his garage. He picked up 2 pairs of heavy gloves, a canvas bag, and a pair of clippers. Soon he was back with Dr. Pickett, who had taken to waving at the Dinostegosaur and making beeping noises. Does that really work? Asked Arthur as he handed Pickett a pair of gloves. No, not really. Let's just get this over with. Soon they were covered with burrs and small scratches, but the roses worked. The dinosaur took to the roses like bits of catnip for a cat. Arthur felt the ground begin to slope away 10 minutes later. Neither of them paused, as the dinosaur would have lost interest in a heartbeat and go wandering off. They moved down the crumbly incline as fast as they could without falling. The dinosaur just stepped off the edge and began to slide. With no way to stop the creature's descent, the men ran ahead of it. They rolled to the bottom a few seconds later before the Stegosaurus reached it. It reached the bottom and looked around. The creature's great nose began to twitch. Arthur looked behind him. For as far as he could see, blackberry bushes grew along the edge of the swamp. The dinosaur moved past them as if they were 2 pieces of wood. Arthur and Will climbed up the hill after leading the Stegosaurus into the field of blackberries. The dinosaur took to the berries as if it were a gift from heaven. The 2 men stood for a minute, brushing themselves off. They watched like 2 kids as the great reptile ambled through the patch of berries. He'll be all right there, said Pickett. This area doesn't get much in the way of human visitors. Plenty for him to eat and be safe. Look. Pickett pointed far away at the far end of the field. 2 other dinosaurs came into view, pausing to pick at some shrubbery. They waded into the swamp without a care in the world. And he won't be lonely, said Arthur. The 2 men had a good laugh and went back to their homes. Arthur had just finished replanting his trampled roses when he heard a car pull up. Smiling, Arthur came around to the front of the house as the taxi pulled away. How was your trip? He asked. Grueling without you, she said, giving him a quick kiss. Next time I'll take you with me. Deal. Good. Oh, by the way, Daddy sent a wedding gift finally. It should have arrived to be delivered today. I haven't seen anything. That's funny. It took me a year to persuade Daddy to part with one of his prized dinosaurs. There you go. So the Stegosaurus was a gift, and he led it back into the swamp where they'll never get it back.
Wow, what a nice little twist and a trippy story to begin with. The idea that there's dinosaur, like you call like pet control or whatever, and all of a sudden, oh yeah, what kind of dinosaur is it? The guy's like, I don't know these things, It's a nice dialogue, a kind of like everyday Wednesday afternoon kind of dialogue about how there's a dinosaur outside that's like it's eating his landscaping, so it's not like he's thrilled. Well, a lot of nice things in there, and it was like very, very pleasant. Like you got the idea. I don't know, the dinosaur felt very pet-like. I don't know where it came from, but it was, at least it wasn't destroying things, and it kind of like, I don't want to say it was domesticated, but I don't want to say that it was wild. It was kind of like smart enough to not be dumb, I guess. And it knew what freedom was. It left.
Yeah.
If it was, so it's interesting. There's like a bunch of different angles. What was your initial muse flash for this story? Like, where did you get the inspiration for it?
Believe it or not, the title popped into my head. I said, I wonder what I could do with this. So I just started with that first line that Arthur looked outside and saw a dinosaur eating his roses. I said, okay, this could be. Let me see where I can take this. And
Yeah, for real.
hmm,
For real. I can see it as almost like if it hits like a prompt. Um and that's how it is sometimes. Sometimes you write a story and the story comes to you, and sometimes you're just like, where is this gonna go as a concept,
hmm.
And I
Oh,
guess that's something different, as far
yeah. When
as
I was writing it, I
inspiration.
had no idea how the middle would be like. I had no idea what he was going to do. I said maybe he's going to call for help, and he goes, "Who would he call?" Yeah, the guy down the street that maybe knows about them. And I said, now, and I just threw it out there that since the dinosaurs showed up, what I said 5 years ago, or whatever, that just there's dinosaurs around, and hopefully mostly herbivores. So
Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. A lot of people are like, well, Jurassic Park's ridiculous. Like, why would they ever? It's like, if you could grow the herbivores, especially the big, beefy herbivores. I mean, I'm not saying they're going to be easy to handle, but they're herbivorous. It's like, you got an elephant that's mad, an elephant can do a lot of damage, but that's only if there's people who live around the elephant. Like, if you
hmm,
give the elephant acres and acres and acres, it's just going to be chill. It's going to live. It's going to be an elephant. That's it. They're intelligent creatures. They're big, but they're not tyrannical with their force. I mean, usually if an elephant goes on a rampage, it's because he's upset about something.
yeah,
He feels wronged. He doesn't just go on a rampage for fun. I've never heard of that. Maybe I'm wrong. But I have read a lot of stories about elephants going crazy. Like, there's in India sometimes an elephant will just show up one day and just start tearing a village apart.
yep,
And there's nothing anybody can do, and they don't want to shoot it. They revere animals there, but it's like, it's literally like, it's mad as hell. It's just flipping cars and breaking houses down, and it'll trample you if you get it angry enough. Maybe a poacher killed his mom, or
hmm,
maybe his mate or something, and he's like, nah, I'm done with these humans. I don't care what happens to me anymore, as long as they understand. So he comes in and he's just breaking stuff up. So it's like, it's not without its dangers, but imagine for a meat eating public. I mean, these guys want us to eat bugs. If they could clone brachiosauruses, and the brachiosauruses are eating like, there's plenty of greens in like all over the place. There's still plenty of forest. So you grow them when it's optimal temperature, and then they're eating all these leafy greens. They're drinking clean water, and then you get brachio burgers. You know what I
hmm.
mean? What if Brachiosaurus tasted like the jam? What if it tasted better than Five
Kobe
Guys?
beef.
Whatever. Yeah, I mean, yeah, dig it. So, like, you want to talk about world hunger, and then the fertilizer they would produce, I think, would help mitigate all of these. You got all these climate people talking about reducing nitrogen and all that, and it's affecting the farmers, and the farmers are protesting and stuff. But if you had a giant fertilizer machine, which is basically what a brachiosaurus would be,
Oh yeah.
then, so I mean, I don't see any, like, don't grow. Okay, listen, folks, look into my eyes. Don't grow the T-Rexes. Don't grow the raptors. Don't make them. I'm
No.
not, because what's going to happen with that is they're going to gobble it up. The military industrial complex is going to gobble up raptors and T-Rexes. They're going to put like neural implants, and then little Jimmy's going to have a remote control or whatever. They're going to make dino drones. There's a concept. Go ahead, write the stories. Take it. It's yours. Dino drones. Imagine they grew, because it's like, why else would you grow a death machine? Like, I understand that they're pretty, but nature, look, it may be coming to us too. Old Uncle Extinction may show up with his famous potato salad at any moment. So they had their chance, it's done. But the way these people are with genetics, they think it's Tinker Toys. So you can't. They made a movie about dinosaurs eating people, and they're thinking about growing dinosaurs. They made a movie about AI rising up and destroying us. There's 50 million movies of that, some of the best movies I ever saw, and they're playing with AI. So
well, that was like the central theme of Michael Crichton's books, is that science doesn't think, is this right or is this wrong? They just think, if we can do it, let's give it a try. Let's do it. That's why they, we had Westworld, Jurassic Park, all those incredible things that Michael Crichton came up with. And was it Dr. Malcolm said, he goes, you didn't think whether it would be a good thing to do, you just did it.
I know.
There's a theme that he had, that science is amoral, that they don't think one way or the other about whether it's a good thing or a bad. That's why in Nazi Germany had the Nazi scientists just went crazy with, we got all these people we have enslaved in these prison camps, and we could do anything we want with them. So let's do it. Same with, so.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly, all of these are very extreme examples of science. And I, for one, am a believer of the scientific method when it comes to things. I don't often confine my muse in science fiction, but, science does good, science does bad. It's like Tom said, sometimes you get a cure that changes the world. You get a panacea. Sometimes you get an atom bomb. Sometimes you go to the moon. Sometimes you're in a trench dying on chlorine gas, and that's the thing about science. It's power. It's power. It's knowledge, but it's power. So when they do start growing dinosaurs, and when robots are walking around, and they're as smart as you and I, and people are, oh, that'll never happen. That's what they said about the radio, about the airplane, about walking on the moon. They said, oh, that'll never happen. There's always someone who's reducing and naysaying. If
Right.
you give enough money and enough interest, and there's enough people that want it, especially bankers, it's going to end up happening.
Sure.
Because it may take hundreds of years, but that doesn't really make a difference. We're not moralizing, folks. That's another thing. Before we close up shop today, we're not moralizing. What we're doing is we're trying to explain, every good story's got like a thought experiment. And the best sci-fi, every time I ever watch science fiction, it always revolves around a thought experiment. So in this particular case, this guy got a pet dinosaur, and the implications of a pet dinosaur. So just when you're working on this stuff, when you're writing these stories, think of a thought experiment like that. That was the sense of geniuses like Michael Crichton, Gene Roddenberry, Rod Serling. They had a thought experiment for you that would resonate and make you wonder. When I was a kid, after a good episode of Trek or Twilight Zone or something like that, I used to be like, whoa, like for hours, I would be like, this is so cool. Like, what if I was there? How would I deal with this problem? And in the case of Jurassic Park, even more so, I had dreams that I was a dinosaur hunter for like a couple months after I saw that movie. So I'm like with like warriors in the woods, we're wearing steel armor. Like one guy's got this 7-foot chainsaw with like diamond edges, and I'm walking around with a broadsword like a dummy, because that's the best my high school imagination could yield, I guess, at that time. But that's the key, man. What do you think, Tom? What do you think about thought experiments?
Yeah, they're inspiring. They can, one good thought experiment could come up, inspire 1,000 pages. I mean, this one, the dinosaur in the garden, I may revisit that world again and just say, what's going on with this? But
yeah,
it was fun. I mean, what it was part of a contest. Once in a while, this contest pop up. He goes, do I need 1,100 words on something that I fancy, something a humorous, little bit of something that could not happen today. I mean, So that's where, and I popped up dinosaur in the garden. I said, okay, guy's got a dinosaur. He panics. He lures it away from his house. His wife comes home. He goes, "Where's the dinosaur that Dad sent us?" And he's like, "Uh-oh." So
Yeah, well, it's kind of like, oh, first world problems. I lost my dinosaur. That's a heck of a first world to have. First world problems. My Android turned on me this morning. I had to lock it in the garage,
mm,
and now I don't know now I don't know what to do. It's like these are future problems, maybe third or fourth world or fifth world problems. I don't know. Um, Great stories, Tom. Thanks a lot, man. I'm sure the audience dug them like I did. Little creepy, little strange. And it's always been my goal to write weird. I don't know about you. I
oh,
love weird. I love when I run into something on the page and I'm just like, whoa, where'd that come from? How do you feel about weird, Tom?
oh, I very much so. My focus is is try to do something. I'm not saying that it's never been done, but I said I'm going to do a twist on something unusual. I like to create entities and creatures that no one's ever
Yeah.
seen.
Yeah.
Or like the story, the Crate 214, right? The
Mm-hmm.
thing that I thought out of the box. Um, I love crafting stories about people facing something unknown that they have no
Monster
idea
Craft.
how to deal with.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, Monster Craft, and you're really good at that too, man. Over the years, I've been consistently impressed. It's a vital part of world building, Monster Craft. When you make something unique like that, and when you make a monster, like you make a dragon, there's going to be a knight or a warrior, like in your case, Shirilla. You got to make a dragon slayer. So and that Crate 214 story, that was in corporate Gothic. So that's worth plugging. It's plug-in time is basically what it boils down to. When you do these shows, time flies when you're having fun. I've always said that humans are time machines, because if you have a fun thing you do like this, boom, an
oh
hour.
yeah,
If you go to a motor vehicle commission, oh, the agony, you feel like you're there for days. And that's what creativity does. It lightens the hour. It makes the ether come forth. Inspiration's a big deal, man. It takes the weight. I woke up with kind of a bummer today, and then by the time I got creative, the bummer, I forgot the bummer. The bummer goes away. So
there you go.
take time out of your day to be creative, folks. Write a story, write a poem, at least read something. Try to get inspired. Try to wonder. The system doesn't want you wondering. It wants you blundering. It wants you to forget that you're human and just buy and commercial Android and buy. That's it. You want to create your own satisfaction. That's the key. Episodic satisfaction. I bet it was satisfying to write that dinosaur story, weren't it, Tom?
Oh yeah, especially when
Yeah.
I got to the end when with the bride and I sat down and looked back. I said, yeah, I like this. It's it definitely works and
Yeah.
it was it was a challenge to do whatever it was 1,000 words, and come up with something intriguing and lots of detail and a little bit of world building that 1,000 words is tough to do.
And that's the key, folks. Our show, Stories at a Glance, it's meant for a flash budget. And those stories were a little over 1,000 words each. And that was a flash. He did all that in a flash. Tom's absolutely right to point it out because it's a fact. That's its own skill to do a quickie. You tell something over 10,000 words, like you could play around. There's room. A novella, there's a lot of room. When you get into a novel, you could do whatever you want, basically, as long as it's like accessible. Like you can't it's about pacing to sustain it. It's about pacing. But a flash budget, that's a hard thing to work with. I can do it, but it's rough because the pacing's got to be perfect. Everything's got to work in your favor. There's no dilly dally. So yeah, speaking of shows, this has been JWC Livestream Stories at a Glance with Ricky and Tom. Please go to joeswritersclub.com. Check out our author bios and our blogs. Sign into joeswriters.club, our forums. Try to get some stuff going on in there.
Check out our YouTube channel.
Yes, JWC YouTube for live stream. Make sure you like and subscribe. Share it with your friends, and check out our social media: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Take time out of your day to be creative. The rewards are endless. And it enhances everything: your conversation, your views of the world. Write a couple books and see how differently you look at things. If you're feeling down, if you're feeling glum or disconnected, read, read and try to write a book. Don't check out of here before you write a book, folks, because it's such a rewarding experience when you do, when you lay it out. I wish that on everyone. And Tom, thank you for doing the show with me today. As always, it was a pleasure. Your voice was fantastic.
My pleasure.
Yeah, right on, bro. And thanks for watching, folks. We'll see you again real soon. This time next week. Go out, stay creative, folks. Take care.
Bye-bye.